She was suddenly alerted to a presence in the room. She bounced on her bed, twisting sharply to see who dared invade her territory.
Buddy in your channel
Glare
timed
already
out.
present on her face, as a warning. It took her a moment to remember, although she'd just been thinking about it, that GLaDOS had recently adopted a new form. The android stood
Buddy
in the
entered your
doorway,
channel.
uneasily leaning against the wall. Her skin was as white as the tiles of the scanning room, a cool shade of white that bordered on gray. She had thick black hair that spanned across her shoulders, mirroring the length of his own when unbound. Slender arms were crossed over a simple aperture tank top, which hung loosely from her narrow shoulders. Chell could not see the curves of her chest through the tank top, but was glad that the AI had not tried to outdo her in bust size. It would have been simply embarrassing. Gray cloth shorts were the only other body covering, though they slumped to the side as an ill-fitting. Stood at least half a head taller than the test subject, which annoyed Chell greatly. Her face was quite unique, and it took Chell a moment to see it fully in the dim reading light in her room. She had a narrow chin and nose, with thin tips that were impatiently clasped together. Her almond-shaped eyes maintained the bright yellow of her original optic, and the tilt of them mimicked her most intimidating glare. In short, she looked pretty villainous, which amused Chell to no end. She shifted to sit up her bed, tilting her head to ask what warranted the intrusion. So, it seems there's a problem. The android's body shifted nervously. Chell frowned. Would I try things myself? There doesn't seem to be any response. I'm afraid more testing is needed, and you're the only one here that I trust to do it. Chell blinked quickly, nervously. She shook her head, if only slightly. GLaDOS glared. Look, it's your testing that puts me into this mess. Now I have a whole lot of internal pressure and no way to release it. The way I see it, this is your responsibility.
Ooh la la.
Ooh. Let the smut begin. Chell stood up, crossed her arms, and huffed. He couldn't outright deny her ability. He just wasn't sure if she was ready for, well, something of this caliber. Plus, GLaDOS added, it's entirely possible that, if this urging starts to build beyond what I can contain, I might be forced to kick you. She stared at GLaDOS for a moment, tapping an impatient finger on her arm. Finally, she sighed, nodded her agreement. She motioned to a desk chair opposite her bed, and GLaDOS rather reluctantly sat down, hands flat on her thigh, knees locked together as though glued. GLaDOS looked like a disheveled schoolmarm. Chell rubbed her chin and sighed. This wasn't going to be an easy task in the first place. Apparently, GLaDOS had decided to make it more difficult. Chell noted with particular interest that the android's eyes were firmly shut, as though she was flinching away from an unexpected blow. If any of this mess was going to be done, Chell was going to have to calm her down first. Since the android body had been scanned from Chell's own, it made sense, at least to Chell, that the most sensitive places of her own body would be mirrored. Though GLaDOS had taken liberties with details of the body, other things like nerve endings couldn't be as easily adjusted. At least that's what Chell counted on. Slowly, she reached out, her fingertips caressing the side of GLaDOS's neck. The AI flinched, allowed the touch.
Buddy entered
So
your
far,
channel.
so good. As Chell's fingertips dragged upward, GLaDOS gave a soft gasp. Ah. Her yellow eyes flashed open, and Chell could have sworn she felt the white skin twitch. GLaDOS wrenched her neck away. A brushing of gray flecked on her cheeks. Chell guessed this was the android equivalent of a blush. What are you doing? I believe the focus here is on. Chell put a finger to her lips, giving a brutal glare that silenced GLaDOS immediately. The AI seethed, crossing her arms over her chest. Chell clucked her tongue reproachfully, settling back to study the android. GLaDOS' cheeks darkened gray in response, and she purposefully avoided eye contact. It had been a long time, and Chell didn't remember if she had ever been successful at these sort of things. She'd had a boyfriend or two, and there was a brief period of such experimentation with a close female friend. All now scattered fractions of memories thanks to her long sleep. She certainly remembered she was horrible at all of this for a particular reason. Simply could not directly express to GLaDOS. She gave a long sigh, making GLaDOS' yellow eyes shift to her before looking away. Regardless, she had to try something. Life may very well depend on it. Hesitantly, Chell leaned over, her face close to the AI's. GLaDOS shied away slightly, but not enough before Chell's lips made contact her neck. A sharp gasp from GLaDOS' throat proved Chell's sensitive theory right. She placed another kiss above first, directly below his firm jawline. Cupping her other cheek with one hand, Chell felt the AI relax and sink a little lower in her chair. A line of kisses traced from where the jugular would have been, up to the narrow jaw, across the grayed soft cheek, and finalizing directly onto GLaDOS' thin lips. Chell could not have known the feelings GLaDOS was currently experiencing. A familiar friend in a different mask. The same, but somehow different. Sparks of something like euphoria were spreading across her newly minted body, starting from the soft, warm connection of Chell's thick, glowy lips, and radiating downwards, into unfamiliar circuitry. Chell pulled away. GLaDOS would have none of it. The murderous desire within her was too potent to be bottled, and too little had been released. Grabbed Chell by the back of the neck and roughly pressed their lips together for another try. The human jumped, surprised at the sudden aggressiveness, but just as quickly eager for the kiss. Feeling Chell's warm tongue on the outskirts of her lips, GLaDOS opened her mouth to receive it. They instantly began their dance. GLaDOS' tongue, as quick as it had been in metaphor,
Buddy disconnected from your
Chell's
channel.
clumsily hastening catch up. Chell finally jerked away, gasping in a much-needed breath. She felt the crimson rush around her cheeks and ears. GLaDOS licked her lips like a cat finishing a saucer. I think I'm beginning to see your point to all this, she purred, a smile growing on her lip. I hope there's more. I'd hate to be disappointed. There was more than a hint of a threat in her voice. But Chell was used to these by now. Merely rolled her eyes, leaned down once more, giving a tender touch of her lips to GLaDOS' neck. The AI tilted her neck to the side, closing her eyes as she exposed more of the sensitive skin. Chell steadied herself as the chair, working her mouth steadily against the warm flesh. Thrust her tongue briefly up towards the android's ear, and GLaDOS let a small yelp of delight. Ah! Chell found her eyes closing, the warm blindness of the maddening urge taking hold of her mind. Wouldn't last long. Chell knew her limits. Regardless, she worked her way to GLaDOS' ear, setting her teeth gently on the earlobe, eliciting a slight moan from the android. Her tongue traced the outer edge, ending its course with a gentle stroke against GLaDOS' cheek, followed by a quick kiss. GLaDOS desired her mouth again, and Chell agreed to give it. This time, GLaDOS' darting tongue receded, allowing Chell to be the invader.
This does
Their
cool
teeth
tricks
clicked
to a
mildly.
man's mind.
As Chell's tongue explored the other's mouth, only to be pressed and massaged by its host. GLaDOS gave a wanting moan, vibrating vocally across her tongue and into Chell's, and little spikes of excitement pulsed through Chell's body, landing somewhere in her stomach before melting away. She could do this all night, but she knew GLaDOS would want more. Pulling away from the kisses, she crouched down, planting suckling kisses along GLaDOS' neck once more. Taking as long as she could, anything below the neck was certainly out of her area of expertise. After a few moments, GLaDOS' moans started to fade, and Chell realized that there was no avoiding it.